Hello, and welcome to Pulp Crazy. In this episode, we will be discussing Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Tarzan first appeared in Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs in the pages of All Story magazine in the October 1912 issue. It was the full-length feature story that month and was published in its entirety. Burroughs' adventure story featuring the heroic exploits of an English noble raised by great apes in the African jungle would go on to spawn dozens of sequels and countless imitators. Tarzan is the prototype for today's superhero. Don't get me wrong, he couldn't fly or use heat vision, he wasn't bulletproof, but he had heightened senses, superior strength, speed, athleticism, and intelligence. That's right, intelligence. To those who are only familiar with Tarzan through the films, it must come as a surprise that the literary version, the original and true Tarzan, is quite brilliant. From a young age, he teaches himself how to read, from children's picture books found in his parents' cabin. He eventually becomes multilingual, fluent in various languages. One of these languages is that of the mysterious great ape-like beings of his native tribe. These great apes refer to themselves as the Mangani. The Mangani are a separate species from gorilla. The Mangani referred to the gorilla as the Bulgani. As an aside, Tarzan means white skin in the Mangani language. Burroughs did an amazing job with the debut novel, Tarzan of the Apes. You follow Tarzan through his early years and into early adulthood while he survives in the African jungle. While he is not as physically strong as his Mangani brethren, he is in possession of a keen intelligence he uses to outsmart them. As he matures, he begins to understand the importance of a noose, his father's hunting knife, and a bow and arrow. These instruments more than level the playing field in his favor. Tarzan is a trademark of Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated, but some of the earlier Tarzan stories have fallen into the public domain in the United States of America. All of the public domain stories are available via ebooks and audiobooks for free. If you are interested in adventure fiction, heroic tales, and action, I highly suggest you read Tarzan of the Apes. I've read the first 3 Tarzan tales and really enjoyed them. Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan, the Tarzan, is nothing like the brute who speaks broken English in the films. He is the ultimate heroic character that all others are modeled after. I look forward to reading the rest of his exploits, and I hope you will give them a try too. If you are interested in learning more about Tarzan and Edgar Rice Burroughs, please visit Herbzine and the Burroughs Bibliophiles web pages, as well as the official websites EdgarRiceBurroughs.com and Tarzan.com. If you go to LibriVox.org and search for Tarzan, it will bring up this list of free public domain audiobooks. Click on Tarzan of the Apes and choose which format you would like to download. Here is a sample from one of the chapters.
Chapter 13 of Tarzan of the Apes. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This recording is by Mark Smith of Simpsonville, South Carolina. Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Chapter 13. His Own Kind. The following morning, Tarzan, lame and sore from the wounds of his battle with Turquoise, set out toward the west and the seacoast. He traveled very slowly, sleeping in the jungle at night and reaching his cabin late the following morning. For several days he moved about but little, only enough to gather what fruits and nuts he required to satisfy the demands of hunger. In 10 days he was quite sound again, except for a terrible half-healed scar, which, starting above his left eye, ran across the top of his head, ending at the right ear. It was the mark left by Turquoise when he had torn the scalp away. During his convalescence Tarzan tried to fashion a mantle from the skin of Sabor, which had lain all this time in the cabin. But he found the hide had dried as stiff as a board, and as he knew naught of tanning, he was forced to abandon his cherished plan. Then he determined to filch what few garments he could from one of the black men of Mbonga's village, for Tarzan of the Apes had decided to mark his evolution from the lower orders in every possible manner, and nothing seemed to him a more distinguishing badge of manhood than ornaments and clothing. To this end, therefore, he collected the various arm and leg ornaments he had taken from the black warriors who had succumbed to his swift and silent noose, and donned them all after the way he had seen them worn. About his neck hung the golden chain from which depended the diamond-encrusted locket of his mother, the Lady Alice. At his back was a quiver of arrows slung from a leathern shoulder-belt, another piece of loot from some vanquished black. About his waist was a belt of tiny strips of rawhide fashioned by himself as a support for the homemade scabbard in which hung his father's hunting knife. The long bow which had been Kulonga's hung over his left shoulder. The young Lord Greystoke was indeed a strange and warlike figure, his mass of black hair falling to his shoulders behind and cut with his hunting knife to a rude bang upon his forehead, that it might not fall before his eyes. His straight and perfect figure, muscled as the best of the ancient Roman gladiators must have been muscled, and yet with the soft and sinuous curves of a Greek god, told at a glance the wondrous combination of enormous strength with suppleness and speed. A personification was Tarzan of the Apes, of the primitive man, the hunter, the warrior. With the noble poise of his handsome head upon those broad shoulders, and the fire of life and intelligence in those fine clear eyes, he might readily have typified some demigod of a wild and warlike bygone people of his ancient forest.
Thanks for watching. Please visit my website at pulpcrazy.com. I am also at pulpcrazy on Twitter. Until next time.